Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. Brother Don here. It's Tuesday. Tuesday's devotion, and we are in Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6, continuing our devotions on men and women of, and as we talked about yesterday, Daniel, a man of commitment. Yesterday we looked at the fact that he had a boundary in relationship to himself that he would not cross about defiling himself. Today we're in chapter 6, verses 1, and I'll skip around a little bit. It says, if it pleased Darius, this is a new king, Nebuchadnezzar's gone, there's a new king, Darius, to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be over the whole kingdom. And over these 120, 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one of the governors, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel, one of the 3 governors, distinguished himself above the other governors and all of the 120 satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to set him over the whole realm. Well, the other governors and the satraps were extremely jealous of Daniel, and they did not like the fact that the king showed him such favor. Now, this is common with Daniel. It seems like whichever king there is, Daniel finds favor with this king. Well, that's the case here. Well, these other governors and satraps, remember, they're all recognized as rulers by the king. They all come to him up with this plan and say, hey, for 30 days, why don't you issue a decree that no one can pray to any god but you? You're the only one that anyone can pray to, only you. Well, the king liked that, and so he wrote that decree, and it says that in verse 10, now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open towards Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that one day. And he prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Well, if you know the story, that enrages them. They've been waiting for this moment. They knew what he would do, and sure enough, he does what he does, and the king has no other choice. The king doesn't want to. Remember, the king has favor, but God has gone before Daniel, and the king throws him into the lion's den, and God closes the mouths of the lions. This brings us to the second boundary that God's word deals with in the book of Daniel. The first one we dealt with in chapter 1, he refuses to defile himself. He purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. The second one, he purposed in his heart that he would not defile God. You see, there's no place of worship for Daniel or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They don't need one. There's no gathering. But every day, 3 times a day, Daniel gathered in his room and prayed. He knew what would happen. He was willing to suffer the consequences for that. You see, it wasn't about worship for Daniel. It was about the fact that he would only worship God, the one and only God. So let me ask you this. On your boundaries, how are you doing? Don't defile yourself, and don't defile God. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.